On this episode of the Bronze Metalist podcast, we talk about Parasomnia by Dream Theater. To another episode of the Bronze Metalist podcast. I'm Kale.
I'm OJ.
We're two professional broadcasters. We like metal. We like to talk about it. Normally during March, we set aside time to specifically talk about things that aren't metal, but you know what? It's our fucking show.
Yeah, we can do whatever the fuck we want.
We can do what we want. And this album came out, and I didn't want to wait until sometime this summer, which is when, for whatever reason, that's when we talk about Dream Theater.
Right.
It's usually at some point in July or August that we talk about Dream Theater. I think it's just that's when it happened the first time we talked about Dream Theater, and we're like, well, once a summer, I guess we're going to talk about Dream Theater at some point.
We'll get a double shot of Dream Theater this year, maybe.
Yeah. But this is a new album. It just felt like, I wanted to talk about it. I wanted an excuse to listen to it front to back a bunch of times because they're the sort of band where their albums are long enough where listening to them all the way through is a task.
It requires your attention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's nice to have an excuse to really dedicate some attention to it. And also it's new and maybe it'll get more attention. Not that we really care, but yeah, we'll talk more about Dream Theater in a bit. First, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, thank you.
That's good.
Yeah.
That is good. Doing anything?
No.
No?
Not doing anything.
Nothing at all?
You know what I need to do? I found myself in a rut. I will tell you that. I feel kind of stagnant a bit.
Okay.
I need to, I see you've gotten a new hobby.
Yes.
That's very cool. It involves paint and minis.
Painting tiny plastic killing machines.
Right.
Yeah. So
I don't know.
I mean, you could. I'm trying to think of stuff that's not like ridiculously expensive,
right.
like Warhammer.
Yeah.
I mean, you could have you gotten and played a new video game recently?
Not really recently. I guess it was for Christmas. I got the new Horizon game. That
have you finished
West.
that?
I haven't
played it.
Finished Forbidden West yet.
Yeah, maybe give a sit down and give some attention to a game that you haven't gotten around to yet. I don't know.
I mean, there's a few games. I have a stack of games that
you got a backlog
halfway through.
Pick what look through them and go like, what one seems like it'd be the most fun. Go for it.
All right,
go for it.
I was thinking like a larger scale, but you're right. Actually, start small.
Yeah.
With something that happens in my living room. I was thinking maybe taking up, I don't know, pickleball. I don't know.
Well, not with your shoulder the way it's been the last couple of weeks.
Oh, I know. I can barely lift my arm.
Yeah, you don't want pickleball just yet.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say start small with something that's not a big investment of money.
Right.
I only started, actually painting minis and whatnot because it's something I've been obsessed with for nearly a decade.
It's a game you've never played.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I've got space to actually devote to the physical part of the hobby, so let's get to it. But I think starting with something a little bit smaller. Have you been reading much lately?
Actually, yeah. I've started to get back into reading fantasy again.
Okay, awesome. Yeah.
I've had a lot of alone time. I've had Kale level alone time lately. Yeah.
It's all alone time. It's all alone time, baby.
Yeah.
You can get a cat?
I have someone that keeps offering me a puppy. It's the same person.
I feel like I love dogs. Puppies are just
they're a lot of work.
Dogs in general and puppies especially are a lot of work. Where like I said, I adore dogs, but as far as just having an animal around, cats are just kind of easier.
Ooh, door dogs.
Door dogs?
Maybe I'll start a new app.
Develop a new. There we go. Fuck starting small. Start a new app with what I have to imagine would be a massive amount of overhead because
Yeah.
I'm guessing the gist of this business is you are delivering dogs to people's doors?
Right, sure.
Are these permanent dogs or are they rental dogs?
I think these would be, man, I'm having a problem. Here's your emotional support dog.
Okay.
There you go. And you can have it for the night.
What do you do with the dogs when they're not being rented out by someone?
Probably like maybe a kennel or I couldn't put them in my apartment. I have a 2-bedroom apartment.
Uh-huh.
And to have enough dogs to, constitute a service,
Yeah.
you got to have a shitload of dogs.
Exactly. I mean, you could partner with like the animal shelter for this.
Great idea.
I feel like there might be some ethical implications that you would need to figure out ways around and protections for as far as like making sure the dogs are being well treated by the people. Also, knowing that the dogs you are renting out to people for the night aren't, hyper aggressive or something.
True, yeah.
That would be difficult.
There's a lot of insurance implications here.
Like, I'm sure there are services. I know there are services that provide like therapy dogs to people, but those don't run through an app. Generally speaking,
there's a vetting process.
Those don't work on the Uber model.
Right.
Those there aren't dog share apps.
Sure.
Well, actually, there might be.
There might be a dog share app.
There's an app for fucking everything.
Literally for fucking everything.
Exactly. Yeah. So there probably is a dog share app or something like that. But as far as providing like comfort animals for someone, I think that's generally like a non-profit that operates that and usually only provides them to like hospitals and whatnot.
Sure. Well, this whole idea has just been blown to smithereens.
Sorry, yeah, I don't know if you're I don't know if you're what was the original name for it?
Dog?
Yeah, I don't know if Door Dog is.
You adore dogs.
Yeah. I don't know if Door Dog is going to work.
Door Llama.
Door Llama.
Yeah, there you go.
Because what everyone always thinks when they're feeling down is, man, I'd love to have a llama.
Really? I mean, isn't that true?
I'd love a big, long-necked creature that's going to spit on me and then bite me, which...
Some people pay good money for that kind of action.
But not usually from a llama.
No.
Usually that's a person that's doing that. It's not typically a llama. Tina, come get your fucking dinner. It's been so long since I've watched Napoleon Dynamite.
You know, it's funny. I work regularly with a woman named Tina, and I have a hard time not saying that shit to her. Sometimes.
Tina, you fat lard.
That would not go over well. That would not be nice.
I don't know why he felt the need to be so mean to that fucking llama. Or was it an alpaca?
I think it was a llama.
Yeah. It's because it's been so long since I remember. I mean, basically the only difference between the two is alpacas are smaller and fluffier, right?
Yeah.
That's basically the only difference.
Right. I have an alpaca hat.
Is it comfy?
Yeah, very comfy. It saved my life.
How so?
During the flood when I was living outside, it got to be October.
Oh.
And it got to be, 0 degrees, and I'm in a tent. I'm like, okay, alpaca hat, keep my head from freezing to death.
There we go. Just your head.
Just my head. Well, I couldn't put it on
keep your head. Just keep your head from freezing to death. The rest of you might have froze to death.
I had a sleeping bag for that.
Okay.
I had a bag it was rated down to 40 below.
That is, I mean, I do understand that you need to be able to breathe, for example, but there is a part of me that when you see like the, extreme cold weather sleeping bags, and it's, this big, extremely well insulated thing, and then there's just a perfect hole for your face.
Right.
I'm like, God, that would suck though, your face being cold.
Yeah. I mean, your face would be cold, but...
It can only get so cold though because the rest of your body's providing it with heat.
Right. Like when you sit in a hot tub when it's winter.
Yeah, it can't be that bad, but like my brain, just sees that and goes like, that looks ridiculous. That can't work well, but it kind of has to work well because you need to have your face, in open air so you can breathe and whatnot, and there's not a CO2 buildup or something. But yeah, it's funny when I see that.
And then when they unzip those, out comes a beautiful butterfly.
Because the rest of your body has melted into genetic goop and reconstituted over the night.
Right.
I didn't really know that's how that worked until somewhat recently. Like, I knew that, obviously very drastic changes that a caterpillar goes through to become a butterfly. I didn't know that they literally completely melt.
Right, they dissolve.
I did not know that how the fuck does, obviously over tens and hundreds of millions of years that happens, but the end, getting to that end result of this animal basically turning into a completely different animal drastically, it's wild.
What was
Nature's
the story?
wild. Yeah, how'd that happen? We have some understanding of why it happens. It's so that they don't basically compete. The adult form doesn't compete with the larval form for food. A caterpillar will eat leaves, whereas a butterfly consumes nectar.
Children. Oh yeah, nectar. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it's wild to me that's the way that works with multiple kinds of insects as well. That's the way that works. But
maggots turn into flies.
Yeah. Certain kinds of grubs will turn into beetles. I guess most kinds of grubs turn into beetles. That's usually how that works.
That's usually how that works.
The beetles. You start out as a disgusting fat worm and you turn into Ringo. Some would say he never changed.
Hey, he's in great shape.
Ringo Starr's always been in great shape.
Yeah.
he's always been in great shape.
There was no call for that.
Yeah, that's just me. Look, if anyone's gonna be mean to any member of the Beatles, it's Ringo.
Yeah,
Ringo. I feel like Ringo's always been the punching bag of the Beatles,
and I feel like he doesn't care.
Yeah,
I
feel like you can't.
No,
if you're Ringo Starr, you
he has all the money he needs.
Yeah,
beautiful companion.
What more?
Life is good.
Yeah, he just gets to kind of do whatever he wants.
Right. What did he do with his life? He's played the drums.
Yeah.
It was a great life.
He's not even the best drummer in the Beatles. I don't know. I think I had something else there, and it's gone now. I started replaying Doom 2016.
Oh, sure.
I played Doom Eternal, and I was like, let's do this backwards. Let's go and replay 2016. I had forgotten just how much of that game, especially the early part of the game, is spent wandering around, wondering where the fuck you're supposed to go.
Yeah.
The environments are so dense and confusing. And
2016?
Yeah, the 2016. Yeah. Like the environments are so dense and layered. Like it's neat how how interconnected they can be. It's a little bit like the first Dark Souls game.
Sure.
But in Dark Souls, it's a third-person camera. The game plays, the combat is relatively slow. Whereas in Doom Eternal, it's first-person. The environments feel cramped, and the combat is fast. It's not anywhere near as fast as Doom Eternal's is.
Right.
But because it's not quite as fast, that's why the environments are so cramped. But it gets so goddamn boring in between fights.
Right.
You're
searching the empty area that you're now in.
Yeah. There's nothing to do for 15 minutes while you're trying to figure out. If you're just trying to go through the game and not trying to find secrets at all, I'm sure it's a lot more straightforward. But
how can you not find the secrets? Though?
Yeah. Well, part of it for me is because they reward you with weapon upgrade points and stuff for finding the secrets and suit tokens to level up. You get progression items from exploring and finding secrets. So to my brain that goes, well, now I have to do that. Right. These aren't just little collectibles that don't mean anything. They're actually important. it's been forever since I've played a Ubisoft game. Like, those are always riddled with 8 trillion meaningless collectibles, and those never meant anything to me. Like, I feel no compulsion to collect all of those things. But the moment you attach some sort of actual statistic that is meaningful for gameplay to these collectibles spread around the map, I'm going to go and find every one of them and complain the whole time.
I told you that my youngest child restarted playing Doom Eternal, right?
Yeah, and he's fucking insane at it.
Yeah, and he was playing it at Nightmare level, and then did I tell you the next day when I talked to him, he's like, I said, did you get very far in Doom Eternal? He's like, I beat the Icon of Sin.
Yeah. Well,
Jesus.
you can, like, if you're good at it, you can blaze through that shit. Like, when I was playing it after it came out and got pretty good at it, like, I could speed run through the levels pretty fast.
Yeah.
And beat the whole campaign in probably about 2 sittings. Like, it's if you know where to go and where, like, the power ups are and stuff, it's pretty quick. But yeah, Doom. One thing also that I decided to play Doom 2016 on Ultraviolence.
Right.
So it's like I'm not playing it on Nightmare, but I also don't want to play it on Just Hurt Me Plenty, because that's what I did in Doom Eternal. Doom Eternal is much more intense. Like, you move much faster, but there's also way more enemies, and they hit you with much more complicated encounters far earlier. Whereas Doom 2016, like, the first Hell Knight doesn't show up until you're about 4 levels in.
Right.
And even that, like, the encounters feel... Maybe it's because I just got done playing Doom Eternal, but the encounters feel boring in Doom 2016.
Really?
Despite the fact that, like, the first time I played it, I was like, oh my god, this is amazing! Like...
But then you played the newer game.
Yeah, like... Now going back from Doom Eternal, it's like this is kind of boring, and yet they are also in a way harder because you feel so much more fragile. Like, you get hit by a couple little firebolts thrown by an imp and you're done. Like, it's weird how much more fragile you are. There's also no extra life mechanic the way there is in Doom Eternal, where you can, if you go around and get your collectibles, you'll find extra lives where you die and you just go, no, and you don't die. And that's there's also a lot of, like, environmental.
Yeah.
There's a lot of environmental insta kills in Doom 2016 where you were standing in the wrong place, now you're dead. And now you have to go back to, the last loading screen.
Right.
Which also sucks because some of the progression items are related to, like, if you kill all the demons on the map, and sometimes you'll die to something environmental, and that progress will reset because you didn't trigger a checkpoint somewhere.
Now you gotta go kill all the demons on the map.
Now you have to go and kill that one random zombie that was wandering around, 40 rooms back.
Right.
I think it's a good sign that, like, there are so many of these little nitpicks in 2016 that just aren't in Doom Eternal, which it shows that id was like, okay, nobody liked this. Let's
leave this shit out.
Let's get rid of that. Let's make the maps more simple. Let's just focus on the action and let people get from one encounter to another without all of this dead space. Which
is another game.
Which is a different game. And it's hard to get lost in Dead Space because in addition to your little digital map, you can press a button and you see a little line that shows you where you're supposed to go that goes across the floor, and it's nice. Like, those are dense, layered environments in Dead Space, but you don't get lost because you got a little fucking computer that shows you where to go. I wish Doom 2016 had that. I had forgotten how frustrating that was at times. Like, I have memories of trying to find really frustrating secrets, especially like the retro levels where there's little hidden levers around the maps where when you push them it opens up a door, and it's like a small slice of a level from the original Doom from 1993. I remember there's a couple of those levers that are really, really, like hidden in bizarre esoteric places that I remember being really fucking frustrated by trying to find them. But yeah, I don't know. I'm enjoying it decently enough. I'm excited for the Dark Ages, which I think is out in May.
Either May or June.
I think it's May. Is
it gonna be May?
It's gonna be May. I think it's in the spring. But yeah, I'm interested to see how that's going to be, since it's supposed to be a little bit slower, a little bit more locked down. It's more focus on strafing instead of jumping around and doing insane acrobatics and shit like you did in Doom Eternal.
Right.
But anywho, speaking of insane stuff, whoa! Listen to these crazy guitars from that John Petrucci.
John Petrucci?
Petrucci, right? That's how it's pronounced.
You know, by the way, I just want to, before we start talking about this album, I actually got a video on the TikToks or whatever that is. And there was a guy who said, all it was him asking the question, name a band where every member of the band is known to be a brilliant, over-the-top musician.
Yeah.
And I go through the comments, and it's like, here's this band, and then Dream Theater, and then somebody said Pink Floyd, and then somebody said Dream Theater.
Yeah.
And then, that was the whole list. It was every other one was Dream Theater.
Dream Theater. Yeah, Dream Theater. Absolutely. And that's pretty much always been the case. And it continues to be the case. So Parasomnia is the brand new album from Dream Theater. Came out late last month. And it's the first album with Mike Portnoy back in the mix since 2009.
Nice.
He rejoined the band, I think, late in 2023 it was. He performed with them in 2022 for, I believe, the 30th anniversary of Images and Words. And apparently that show, or the run-up to that show, was the first time that he and James LaBrie had spoken since he left the band.
Really?
I hadn't quite realized that, like, because he had met back up with a number of the other members of the band. You know, he had done
LTE.
Liquid Tension. I mean, the first two LTEs were in the 90s.
Sure.
LTE 3 wasn't until a couple years ago.
Right.
When him and he had played drums for John Petrucci's solo work and stuff, and like they had been reconnecting, and all of them kind of agreed, like, you know what? It's time. Let's just get back together. Like,
we're getting the band back together.
Getting the band back together. That did mean, of course, having to let Mike Mangini go. But apparently that was amicable enough.
I mean, what can I say? Oh, you want Mike Portnoy back? Okay.
Yeah, well, yeah. It's apparently he was kind of like, yeah, no, this makes sense. You should do this.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and all of them had kind of said, like, you know, none of us are getting any younger, and we all, you know, we were in this band for how many years together, and yeah, you know, maybe there was some bad blood there for a bit, but what does it matter now?
Are any of them 60 yet?
I think some of them are over 60. I think Jordan Rudess.
Yeah, Jordan
be.
Rudess is closer to 70.
Yeah, he's Mike Portnoy, I think, is like 56, something like that. But
I think Mike and John are the same age.
Yeah, Mike, John, and John, I think, are all three the same age, because they all went to college together. But Mike, John, and John.
Mike, John, and John. John, Mike, and John.
Yeah, the two Johns. Because they're all from. Well, I think they're all from either Boston or New York.
Right, somewhere on the East Coast. But
East Coast.
Jimmy Cheese is Canadian, right?
Yeah, James LaBrie is Canadian. Jimmy Cheese. But I think almost everyone else is from the East Coast. But yeah, they kind of just decided, it's like, you know what, like, yeah, let's get back to it. And not too long after Mike Portnoy was officially back, they started working on a new record. And I watched an interview with them all talking about the album and talking about how everyone was kind of like, what is this going to feel like? Getting this lineup back and like sitting down, and all of them, like, it was really weird because it felt like nothing happened.
Nice.
It felt like they were like
no time had passed.
Yeah, it was just we were back to 2009. Like it was at least that's them talking about it.
Sure.
So who knows? They might be saying that for the press or whatever. But
right, the press leaves. They shut the door. Well, that was good. Shut the fuck up.
We fucking hate each other. I don't know if any of them have the energy for that anymore.
Right.
They do certainly seem to have the energy for writing and performing the music.
Yeah. Holy crap.
I mean, it's kind of funny. A lot of reviews were like, Dream Theater's back, but they never really went anywhere.
Right.
like we talked, we talked about their album before this one last summer, and both of us loved that album.
Yeah.
Like that album was my favorite of all the ones they had done with Mike Mangini. Like I thought it was their best in a really long time. And this one, it also feels really, really good.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know if I like it as much as I liked the previous one.
I really like this one.
Yeah.
And this is another situation where I was in the mood for this.
Yeah.
When I played it, so it was like, it's like when you haven't eaten all day, man, this is the best burrito ever. So I think this might be a little bit skewed for me.
I mean, I don't want to imply that I didn't like this album. Like I really do like this album, but any Dream Theater album also ends up being compared to every other Dream Theater album as well, and they get stacked on top of each other in my head. Where it sort of becomes they're competing against themselves instead of competing against other bands when it comes to like how much do I like this one. I'd still like this a lot. This is also probably one of their darker albums in a long time.
Very, very dark and very emotional.
Yeah. I mean, the title is Parasomnia, which refers to basically any sort of disturbance of sleep.
Right.
So the themes just sort of naturally end up being pretty dark. This is, it's one of their what I would call an episodic concept album.
Sure.
Which is all of the songs fit a theme, they fit a general concept, but it's not one big story the way that like Metropolis is.
Sure. Or Seventh Son of a Seventh Son.
Yeah, or for a different dream, like The Astonishing.
Sure.
That's an album I need to re-listen to at some point. This is their album from 2016, I think. Maybe 2014. I think it's their longest album, which is also why it's a difficult prospect for re-listening. It's one of their last like really big swings that they took, where a lot of their other albums really kind of fit into a certain formula that they've been following basically since 1999.
Right.
But it's a formula that works. This album structurally reminded me a lot of 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence, which was the album from 2002, 2001. It was the second one with Jordan Rudess after Scenes from a Memory. Because it's that same sort of thing where it's all a general concept with individual songs exploring a specific facet of that concept. It's a Dream Theater album.
Yeah.
It's good. I like it. I like it a lot.
They don't seem to have slowed down as far as their ability to play very melodic, beautiful music.
Oh God, yeah. Something I found interesting is I think it was a YouTube short or something about that, talking about how for a long time, like in the 90s especially, people criticized John Petrucci's guitar playing as being too perfect, too technical, it was too clean. It wasn't emotive. I was like, what the fuck? What Dream Theater are you listening to that you think John Petrucci's guitar playing isn't emotive? Like,
he's expressing a lot lot of emotion. He's just doing it very well.
He's just not doing it messily.
Right.
Like, I feel like that's less of a comment about the playing and more of a comment about maybe the way that the guitars are produced. I don't know.
Maybe.
But I've never thought Dream Theater's production was too clean. It always felt appropriate for a progressive metal band. His guitar. This is a very guitar-led album.
Yeah.
I feel like.
Yeah, there was one song. What was it? The Broken Man.
Yeah, Broken Man.
It begins, and just for a split second there, I thought it was an Anthrax song. Just for a moment, they're like, really?
Broken Man. I think I was also paying attention to the lyrics as well, because they tend to like trade like who's writing most of the lyrics for the songs. And I feel like traditionally James LaBrie only does like lyrics for like one song on every album, but I think he did 3 on this.
Really?
Broken Man was one of them. He tends to gravitate towards the slower, more melodic tracks. Just because I think, he's a singer, so what pops into his mind and what he gravitates towards as far as his writing goes is probably going to be the stuff that's got the most singing over it, essentially. So he also did the lyrics for Bend the Clock. But the only one that Mike Portnoy did the lyrics for was Midnight Messiah.
Okay.
Which I feel like I noticed a bunch of callbacks in Midnight Messiah and in a couple other songs as well. There's like a couple of lyrical callbacks and a couple of like motifs, thematic motifs from like the 12-step suite and from Metropolis Part 2. There's one line it's calling me back to my home. That's a line from Metropolis, the song, and Metropolis Part 2, the album. There was the opening like overture run up to Shadow Man Incident. The da-da-da-dun, 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 da-da-da-dun. It's not quite that beat. That beat is, I think, from the I think that's from the opening of Metropolis Part 2. I think they've reused that a couple of times. Like, there were a bunch of callbacks that I immediately recognized because I listened to like Metropolis at least once a year, and I was like, oh, okay, I like this. It's a little. It felt like maybe it's just nostalgia bait, but I don't know.
It works.
It works, and it's also like, hey, Mike Portnoy's back. Why don't we do this?
Right.
Like, there was little things that my my brain picked up on. Wait a minute, could it be? Which I thought that was neat. Like the whole song for Midnight Messiah feels like it kind of fits into the like the world of the Metropolis songs. It just it sort of fits in there. But yeah, I don't know. I like this. I like it a lot.
Well.
This album slap?
Yeah,
I think it does for sure.
Yeah, there's parts of it that are actually downright thrashy.
On occasion. I feel like I don't know if Petrucci recorded on an 8-string. I think he's talked a little bit about 8 strings recently. I don't know if he actually had played one on this or not. Because I feel like some like guitar people get weird about certain guitarists thinking like, oh, they should never touch an 8-string like that, because 8 strings are kind of associated with newer bands and younger guys, even though like
they've been around forever.
The band that popularized 8 strings for metal is fucking Meshuggah.
Right.
None of those guys are young.
They've been around since the 80s.
Like they're the biggest band that like made 8 strings a thing for metal. But I feel like some people are weird about that. We're like, oh, they should only ever play a 6-string, and it's like, no, it's a tool that you use to accomplish a specific task, and if you want to do a thing and an 8-string guitar is the best tool for that task, then use the fucking 8-string guitar.
Exactly.
If you can get one that meets your specifications. Like, I feel like John Petrucci can just call up a guitar company and be like, hey, I want to do a signature with you guys. And I want it to have this, and this, and you can sell it and it'll sell a bunch.
Right. And they're like, you're right.
You can make a prototype for me, and then you can sell it to a bunch of other people too. And they'll probably be like, okay, sure. Yeah, you're John Petrucci, whatever you want. Like, I feel like he probably has that kind of. Same thing with Mike Portnoy and drums.
Sure.
Like,
he wants that Hello Kitty set. They'll bring it to him.
The fucking Hello Kitty set. I love that video.
Yeah.
Have I showed? I should see if I can find where it was in the. I have it saved somewhere in my pictures on my phone. There's a picture of Mike Portnoy's drum kit for the current tour that they're on. Holy fuck!
Yeah,
that thing is massive.
I feel like I too have seen this picture.
It's ridiculous how big it is. I think they call it the Dream Monster. I think is specifically because he's had like they tend to give his kits a specific name. I think he had like the Purple Monster at one point, and this one is the Dream Monster since he's back in Dream Theater, and it's also an album that's all about sleep. It'd be funny if it was an album that was about Sleep the band.
Right. It was Dream Theater's Holy Mountain.
I could probably just Dream Theater's Holy. What would it sound like if Dream Theater made a Stoner Doom album?
I don't know.
I don't know if they can restrain themselves that much. I don't know if that group of musicians together in a room is capable of not going absolutely like
bonkers, yeah.
Bonkers.
Yeah.
Like even their slower, more melodic stuff still has a lot going on. There's still tons of layers and lots of, the BPM is not slowing down to dope smoker levels. Here, I'll just Google the Dream Monster. Not the Dream.com monster, the Dream Monster.
We're living the Dream.com.
Portnoy. Come on, show me the. Oh God, yeah, this is it from above. I mean, this is visual content, but it's just me showing it. Yeah. Well, because really what it is it's two complete drum kits. It's not just one kit. It's two complete kits for playing songs from like different eras, essentially. There was a video, a channel called Drumeo, that Mike Portnoy has appeared on multiple times over the last couple of years. And there was a video of his drum tech putting together that set, and it takes like 3 hours.
Sure,
it's absolutely nuts. But he's
so how do they transport it then? I wonder.
I mean, in a big trailer, I imagine, and it's in all its cases and whatnot, and.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what goes into transporting that thing around, but
if it takes 3 hours to put together, that's 3 hours before every show.
Yeah. But I mean, they're a big enough band, and I imagine at their age, I don't think they're showing up to a gig 20 minutes early.
No,
I think they're there. They're there pretty well in advance with their gear and doing sound checks and stuff. So I have to imagine time-wise, it probably works out fine.
I gotta say the strangest drum set I've ever seen was in 1994.
Okay.
My band that I was in was called to come be an opener for this really cool punk band out of the Chicago area.
Okay.
They were going to play here in town, and they showed up and we got there with all our crap in the van, and they're loading in this drum kit that was just this series of weird tubes. It was a drum kit, but it was geometric shapes, like it was randomly printed by. We didn't have 3D printers at the time, but if we'd had, I thought, was that printed by a large 3D printer? That's the strangest drum kit I have ever seen. And the drummer, by the way, for that band was named Fred Armisen.
What the fuck? Of course it would be weird.
Yeah.
If Fred Armisen is in a band, of course it would be weird as hell. What was the deal with the drum kit?
I never got a chance to ask because we went back and the guy who rented the venue, he said, hey, these guys, Dredge Can, meet Trenchmouth, and then we're like, hey, cool, and these guys are going to be your opening band, and they're like, no.
Not those guys.
We're not staying in this shithole that long. We've got to be in Montana by sundown, so no.
We're taking off.
Yeah, we're gonna play 8 songs and then say thank you. And
we've got 8,000 miles to drive tonight.
Yeah.
There was a show I went to at the Blue Rider of all places. It was like a punk show at the Blue Rider, and there was a band that performed there that was, I think they were going to perform in Spokane the next day. They were going Minot to Spokane. They weren't taking the train; they were driving.
That's a long drive.
They were taking off and leaving and going to drive through the night, which means driving through Montana.
Yeah, and all of Idaho.
All of that stretch of Idaho doesn't take long.
No,
to
it
get
doesn't.
through.
You're right. Yeah.
But I mean, by the time they got to the Rockies, it probably would have been like 4 a.m.
Some bitch.
Like Jesus Christ! Like I don't want to drive across the fucking mountains at 4 a.m.
No.
I don't remember what time of year it was either. I feel like it might have been like spring or something like that.
I remember when I went on my second honeymoon, we went to Yellowstone, and we had to drive through the mountains. And I don't know what was going on with my new wife at the time, but she was driving, and we were on this mountain pass that was like somebody had dropped a wet noodle, is what it was. And it was
because it was just squiggly?
Just squiggly. It was like my wetty spaghetti, and it was... and there was like no guardrails, but she was doing like 50 miles an hour.
Oh Lord!
And I remember the oh shit bar. My fingers were just grinding. I was like, I'm smoking like a whole pack of cigarettes to this mountain pass.
The entire pack.
Yeah.
When the last time I went to Yellowstone, we went up over the mountains at Beartooth Pass.
Sure.
In Montana, which is up the road from Red Lodge. And there were a bunch of switchbacks, and a number of times my mom had to change seats with me so she could be further away from the edge. But my dad was driving, just fine, driving responsibly or whatnot, but she just could not handle the heights or that sort of thing, which I don't blame her for.
Understandable, sure.
I don't tend to have too much of an issue with heights as long as I'm standing on something solid. Like if I'm standing on the side of a mountain, that's fine.
Sure.
But like the clear overhang over the Grand Canyon, that freaks me the fuck out.
Yeah.
Or like anything where it looks like there's nothing underneath me. No. Like I remember when I was a kid, there was a family event at the power plant my dad worked at.
Yeah.
And the upper floors, the power plant, it's industrial metal grating, like any fucking Fear Factory was there,
or like Ministry, sure,
yeah. But no, it was metal grating. You can look down several floors, and that terrified me. A phone call.
Yeah, somebody named Potential Spam. I don't think we'll be talking to Potential Spam.
It's only potential spam.
Sure.
It's not actually spam.
No, it's just potential. It's pork shoulder, so it's potential spam.
It could be spam.
Yeah.
If you add in 5 pounds of salt.
Right.
And other stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know what else goes into spam
I don't either.
other than pork shoulder. I guess there's some spices.
Sadness.
That's the
I like
part.
spam, though.
I also like.
Yeah.
That's one of the. Of all the things I could have added to my diet over the last year, spam should not have been one of them.
Well, yeah, you said a lot of sodium.
But
it's okay. You're getting older. You should have more salt.
Sure.
Yeah.
But no, because I don't know if I had ever had spam. It's just one of those. Some people consider it a staple, but it was not in my household. And
now, have you eaten it cold out of the can?
I've not stooped that low yet.
Okay. You don't think you're gonna like it, and at first you don't, but like later on, you're like, I'm gonna try another piece of that. And then you sort of get a taste for it.
I just don't know. I feel like the texture would fuck with me. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like handling. It's not raw spam,
right?
But straight out of the can, like because your fingers get sort of greasy and a little.
And there's that gel in there.
There's a gel. You get it on your fingers, and I don't like that. But yeah,
my favorite part is the sound of it coming out of the can. Yeah, so satisfying.
Anyway, we were talking about Dream Theater.
Right. Speaking of spam.
5 reviews on the Wikipedia article came out to 83. Not terrible. But what's your favorite song?
I thought about it quite a bit, and I think Night Terror is my favorite.
Night Terror is really good. I also thought about it a lot.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I came up with a satisfactory answer.
Yeah. It's hard. It's with songs that are 7 minutes long and come into so many textures and so many moods and so many parts. I think it's, for me, it's between probably Night Terror, Bend the Clock, and Shadow Man Incident. Yeah. I can hear that.
Night Terror is probably one of the more dynamic songs on the album. It's got a lot going on. The last half of the song is just a classic Dream Theater of just let's all fucking show off.
I actually got chills. When you mentioned the last half of that song. There's this part of there. At first I wasn't even sure if it was Jordan or John Petrucci.
I mean, that's classic Dream Theater.
Who's playing? Are they playing this at the same fucking time? Are you kidding me?
Yeah. They bleed into each other.
Right.
Because you effectively have 2 leads at multiple times on any Dream Theater album. They'll both be playing a lead at the same time, and they're like dueling with each other, and it's part of what makes them them. But Bend the Clock is also, it's the big emotional heart of the album.
Yeah.
That they always tend to have. And then Shadow Man Incident is just an epic.
Yeah.
It's 20 minutes long. Yeah. It's
19.
Close to 20.
Yeah.
It's the big, just huge thing that ties everything together. It brings all the all these various motifs back, and just sort of wraps everything else up into a nice bow. So it's hard for me to choose between those 3. They all have pieces of what I love most about this band, and together I think they kind of represent all of the things that I love about Dream Theater. So it's I can't pick any one of them.
And I gotta say, when I listened to this today. I didn't do my normal thing, which is to put on my headphones in my apartment, do the dishes, or sit there and usually with the lights off, and just and listen. Today, I'm like, I'm not in the mood to go home. I was feeling some melancholy for various different reasons. I'm like, I'm gonna crank this motherfucker all the way up to 40, and I'm going to drive. And so I drug Broadway. I dragged. I did drugs on Broadway.
You cross-dressed on Broadway?
Yeah. No, I just went up and down the main street in our city, just listening to this as loud as I could.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
This is actually the best way to listen to this.
So what medal do you bestow upon Parasomnia, like Maskanata to Chewbacca?
Gold.
You know what? I wrote silver, but talking it out with you, I think it's a gold.
Yeah.
It was going to be a high silver, but again, it's that thing where whenever we talk about Dream Theater, I'm always comparing it to my favorite Dream Theater album.
Sure.
Every Dream Theater album will always be compared to Metropolis Part 2, which is 26 years old. That album is almost as old as I am. And it's like, it is a gold on its own.
Yeah.
I definitely think it deserves to be. Yeah, I don't know. I'm excited to hear them continue and keep on writing now that the prime lineup is all back together. It just feels right. And it feels good. But next week, what do you want to talk about?
Next week, I was thinking we'd talk about an album we've been threatening to talk about for a very long time.
Okay, that could be a lot of things.
Specifically, a group that we've been talking about for a long time. And since we're like non-metal March, I was thinking about maybe talking about South of Reality.
I'm trying to remember. Oh, that's South of Reality. That's the album name for Lennon Claypool Conspiracy.
Yeah.
Okay, it took me a second to remember. Yeah, Sean Lennon and Les Claypool.
Right.
and it's fucking weird.
It is, but it's really good.
It's really good.
Yeah.
It's been a long time since I've listened to that album. Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
Let's do it. I'm excited for that. Hell yeah. South of Reality by the Claypool Lennon Conspiracy. Is that it?
Delirium.
Delirium.
It's an album from 2019.
I think I was melting it together with Cavalera Conspiracy, which is very different.
If there was a band with Les Claypool, Sean Lennon, and Max and Igor Cavalera.
Well, is it Calavera?
Yeah, Calavera. Sorry, Cavalera. Yeah.
I never remember which one it actually is.
I've been saying it for 30 years and I never remember either.
Yeah.
I think it's Calavera.
But that is the name of their band, of just their band together, isn't it? Whatever their last
Calavera
name is,
Conspiracy. Yeah,
Cavalera, I think they have a band that's called that. That's just them.
Yeah, I believe so. Well, them and other musicians.
Yeah, and other musicians.
But it's their band.
Yeah, it's their band. Anyway, that aside, I'm excited to listen to that. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
So we will talk about that next week. Until then, why don't you go ahead and subscribe to our feed on whatever podcast service you are using to listen to those podcasts on. Sentence. Thank you very much for listening to another episode of the Bronze Metalist Podcast. I'm Kale.
I'm OJ.
Congratulations. Yeah. Okay. Let's go.
Skeet, motherfucker.
Just the whitest Little John. I'm Little John.
I'm Little John.
Little John.